So when it comes to something like this, it's not even that extreme. What are we saying? Oh, just have someone come and talk to you, sit with you, process things with you, or maybe even just come and visit and make sure that you are not self-denying, self-ignoring, self-neglecting, God bless you, because you are grieving. I think that's a big deal. In fact, I think that's to be embraced.
Hi, my name is Abiola Hakimat Ailara, founder of My Cura. And today on our Care Conversations, I have with me the phenomenal Tara Koko. Tara is one of my very good friends, and today we'll be talking about care as it concerns of family and our society. Tara, thank you for joining me.
A pleasure.
So tell me, Tara, could you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do?
All right. Thank you for having me first off, Abiola. I would say I'm a very simple woman. My name is Tara Koko. I'm a beauty entrepreneur, primarily. That means I run full-service beauty salons in Lagos, Nigeria. I come from a rather small family, if you think about it from the nuclear point of view. My mother had 3 children, and she was an only child herself. In terms of me right now, I've evolved as a wife, as a mother, as a sister, as a friend, and I've decided to refer to myself as simple because when it comes down to it, really, the less complicated our lives are, the richer, the fuller, the more beautiful that they are. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. So Tara, today, right? When I reached out to you, I think we're having a random conversation, and then you told me about your grandmother, and that really touched me. And I said, actually, we need to have you on here. And if you don't mind, could you please share a bit of your background with me, if you don't mind?
All right. So as I said in my introduction, I come from a rather small family in the sense that I was the second of 3 children. My mother passed away when I was 10 thank you, in childbirth. And unfortunately, that child also is not alive today. He was born with a condition called cerebral palsy. He lived for about 9 years, but it was not a high quality of life. We didn't talk about that in that brief conversation. However, from that time onwards, I also mentioned that my mother was an only child. So her demise had a very jarring effect on her mother. We used to call her Mommy Oshobo because when we were growing up, she lived in Oshobo with her husband and his other wives. But from the moment of my mother's demise, when she was brought over, she's never really gone back home. So her life changed permanently. As you now know from the incidents surrounding my mother's death, there was a baby involved. And so in the middle of her grief, there's a new child to take care of, a brand new baby. There are 3 other children who at the time were aged 12, 10, and 7 to care for, to think about, and she was distraught. So you had my widowed father who was confused, my grandmother who was just totally gutted from what had happened, and then my paternal grandmother was also in the picture, but as these things go, herself and my maternal grandmother didn't see eye to eye, so there was also that dynamic. In the years that followed, they figured out a way to make it work. I do recall, because I think I also coped with my loss with some blank or blind spots from my growing up. However, I do recall that at a point, my newest brother went back home with my paternal grandmother. Okay. And so my maternal grandmother, who stayed behind in the city where we lived at the time, was responsible for myself and my siblings. I think at the time I had just started boarding school, secondary school. My older sister was in secondary school as well, in the boarding house, a different school. And then my little brother was at home, maybe in about primary 4 or 5. Our lives changed forever from that moment on. And my grandmother, dealing with her grief, had to also deal with these young children. You said something the other day and it stuck with me. You said, I'm actually her child because, as it were, my mother's ovaries were in her, when she carried my mother. And so somehow that second generation really still feels kind of collapsed into like the first child. So we've come many years since then. It's been, maybe 23 years, 1998. So it's been a rather long time. But I would say that she figured out how to cope. I know that people kept telling her, just look at these children, keep your eyes on these children. And somehow she managed to keep her eyes open long enough to see the children. She did what a mother would do at every opportunity she got. She was with us, as physically present as she could be. She cared for us. She doted on us. She prayed for us. And now she's a great grandmother to my children, and it feels full circle sometimes.
That is so touching, and I'm just thinking, with all the emotions and the circumstances that surrounded that time, what was care like? I mean, away from how the family dynamic was, what was healthcare like? Could you remember, was there any time that support was provided, maybe through the grief journey, or with this new child, this 9-year-old, who eventually, became 9-year-old before he passed? Was there any kind of support for you or your family or even your grandmother at that time?
Abiola, I must say, probably not. And if at all, not enough. I feel like if we had lived in a different part of the world, perhaps, we might have had access to that level of supportive care. In Africa, perhaps there have been some changes over time, with the westernization of our healthcare system and behaviors in general. I think over time there's now become a greater awareness as to the dimensions of what care, really is. But as at that time in 1998, it was just a matter of, you guys were praying for you and all of that. There was no grief management for us as children. I do remember heading back to school, secondary school, when I used to sometimes look to the skies and I would read or recite Psalm 121 to myself, because these were the things that my mother left behind. And I would say, I lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help is in the name of the Lord. I'm a bit emotional because there was nobody to talk to. I was 10. Life had changed. It had turned on its head. And I still had to continue. And somehow I had to go through that journey alone. I can only imagine in bits how the journey was for my sister, who dealt with her grief in her own way, and then my little brother. But there was not enough care. And then when I think about my little brother of blessed memory, Emmanuel, and how he needed layers of therapy, of care and of support. He was with my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, who loved him, obviously, but was limited in terms of the access to even care that she could. Sometimes some things as basic as just meeting his hospital appointments at the time, because it wasn't really clear that anything was wrong until perhaps he was about 2 and he wasn't hitting his milestones, that there was something off, but when it was diagnosed and he needed, the levels of therapy, I don't know, but cerebral palsy is a real life situation. It's not the abilities of the individual are greatly reduced, and so they are very dependent on the support system around them. My grandmother loved him but couldn't do enough. I know vague recollections, instances where my father was really cross with his mother about them not meeting appointments or not following through on some of the things that they were advised to do from the hospital, because there was first maybe a knowledge gap. And in addition to the knowledge gap, there was just that lack of availability of a support person. Remember, she also was living her life, minding her business. My father is maybe number 3 or 4 of her children. She had other things, other people, other dependents, and then this from nowhere. So no, there was not enough support. If we had a different kind of environment, if we had access to real, supportive care outside the hospital, like home type care, I think he would have had a much better quality of life. I don't know the circumstances, because we were really just children, that led to his eventual demise. But perhaps with more care, that could also have, been helped. And then when you think about how, like I mentioned, I have portions of my childhood blocked out, and that was coping for me. Perhaps with more supportive care, I could have, kept all of these, my memories in place, because I would have processed the pain, for example, if there was more. So, no, we did not have as much as we could have used at the time in terms of care.
Yeah, I mean, this is so hard. Wow. And then I'm just beginning to think that even as at that time, 1998, right, that all of this happened, do you know that even in recent times, people still struggle with this reality? And if you were to, with this platform and you're sharing this story, many people are watching from all over and they're like, gosh, if I have this kind of solution, maybe a helping hand, a listening ear, somebody that is just there for me to see, maybe it will make all the difference. And even with my Jira, I know I have one of our clients who just lost his wife, and it had just been both of them. They don't even want anybody around them, just him and his wife. But the wife had passed on, and the family, the children wanted him to have someone to stay with him so that he can grieve properly, because being alone is going to cost a lot of. So he struggled with this even as at now. He felt like he's going to be incapacitated. That is what he perceived care to be. So tell me, if you have the opportunity to help somebody today that is grieving or needs care support, but they are denying this necessity, what would you say to them? How would you think you can convince them to say that even a day in a week will go a long way in helping you?
It's said that the day that you wake up is your morning. You only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. There's a lot of, culturally, I'll say speaking, there are a lot of things that seem either taboo, unnecessary. You people are doing like the Oyinbos again, and all of those things that prevent us from obtaining, from receiving, from accessing what we need in terms of care and other things. When I say taboo, I really do mean it. Someone who is grieving, if the person says they want to have a conversation with certain experts in Nigeria, I can assure you that even their well-educated relatives would start to talk about, is this saying a shrink? Is everything okay? Is it not just? And sometimes minimize the situation, the pain, or the person's process. Because in my few years since losing my mother, I've lost many other people, but over the years, dealing with grief, I know that there are phases to grief. Yeah. There's always denial. Yeah. It's almost like, the person is sleeping. This is a bad joke. We'll wake up and it will all be April Fools or something, but it's not. You go from there to sometimes feeling, depending on the circumstances, there might be guilt, there might be just anger, rage in some instances, And so having someone who understands what grief is about sort of frees you from the mental weight of, I think I'm the one that there's a problem with, because other people have lost people and they did not die. And then you're feeling like this thing is going to kill you. And they say grief is the price we pay for love. So that means the deeper you love, if you like, the deeper that grief that you're likely to feel. So I'll say let's stop the nonsense. It's not taboo. It's not to be avoided. If I had gangrene in a hand and they said the only way to fix this thing is to sever it, you will not argue because you want to save your life. Yeah. Right? So when it comes to something like this, it's not even that extreme. What are we saying? Oh, just have someone come and talk to you, sit with you, process things with you, or maybe even just come and visit and make sure that you are not self-denying, self-ignoring, self-neglecting because you are grieving. I think that's a big deal. In fact, I think that's to be embraced, because that 10-year-old girl in 1998 would have given anything for anybody that genuinely knew or knows what she's going through. Let me tell you the circumstances around that loss. My mother died on the 20th of October. I went to school, boarding school, for the first time in September. It was just a few weeks of being away. You see the way your little daughter was holding onto your legs. I was like that. They used to call me gum body, like chewing gum to my mother. I was the one I follow her everywhere. I don't know, it was just the way I was. And so I'm like, I just left home. I literally just left. And you are telling me that this woman is gone, she's not coming back. It was a matter of weeks, because generally school opens maybe second week of September. So maybe 5 weeks in, they come to pick me up. Am I, under whatever rules that they came. But you understand, it was so unbelievable, if you like. So if I'd had the opportunity to process that with someone else, it would have made a world of difference. And then over the years, even as the form of the grief changed, as it took other shapes and all of that, then you're going through puberty, your mother is not there, your boys are trying to talk to you, your mother is not in the picture. Or, eventually you got to the point where someone is really serious and asking for your hand in marriage, and there's no one to quite bounce it off of. Then should I talk about having babies and not having your mother in the picture? So there have been points or milestones in my life where I would have given anything, to have that. But somehow we've navigated them. And I'm grateful that now, over the years, looking back, I've figured out how to access the care that I need. Quick example or case in point. When I had my babies, in fact, they're so close together in age that I think God was just merciful to me, because anything more than like that, I'll probably have been a mother of one. But you get, when I had the first one, I wasn't playing. My nanny's name is Auntie Eno of blessed memory. I looked for someone that was older and wiser, a mother in her own right. Her children were teenagers. I said, that's the one I need to come and stay with me. Because my mother-in-law, lovely, doting mommy to me, but she was a professor. She just retired in December. So she'll come around maybe a day or two after you say the baby has arrived, and she's like, oh my God, you're so cute. You guys named the baby a few days later. Mommy is like, I'm seeing you soon. I can't wait to see you again. And she's off, right? So I had Auntie Eno in my life. And when Auntie Eno started having, knee, I think arthritic pain in her knees from going up and down the stairs. You know how it is now. You have a baby up in some room now. She's going to the kitchen, boiling water, bringing this. So she started to have that discomfort. She referred her friend, Auntie Rose, wherever she is. Thank you. Right? Auntie Rose came, and I had these aunties in my life taking care of these little babies because I can't come and go and kill myself and die, until they got to a stage where they needed someone to run and chase them. Right. And then my care support system changed, and I found the kind of carer that I needed at that time. But basically, do not be ashamed of the care that you need. Own it with your full chest. It's your life. Whatever need you have, access it. Don't worry about the naysayers, the doomsday prophecy, and whatever. Just ignore all those voices. They don't matter. They say if they matter, they won't mind. And if they mind, they don't matter. Right? So access the care that you need. Go after it with your full chest. Call my curer. They've got... You're just telling me now that there's something called a community nurse. Because I was thinking of someone like my grandma, who right now, she has come full circle. She's a very advanced grandma. I don't know if she's in her late 80s or early 90s, but she's really old. And she doesn't want to leave her community because it keeps her alive. Those people she talks to in her environment, they're part of the reason why she's thriving. She doesn't want to move, right? But if you had someone like that, because from time to time she'll tell me, ara mi ṣe bákan, mo ń ṣu, mo ń ṣe báyìí. And I'm like, you know what, mommy, ṣe ti lọ hospital. And sometimes when you think about it and you're like, mommy, ṣe ti lọ hospital, mommy doesn't exactly have a driver because everything is within 5 minutes walking from her. Right. And the walking is really good. It supports her because she's agile, you know. But sometimes she's like, you know, but if there was someone who was required to check on her weekly, and now mommy has said to me on the phone, because she calls me like every day anyways, and says, I can always say, our community nurse, can you please do a second visit this week to mommy and check on whatever it is that she's complaining.
And if she needs the hospital visit,
then you help ensure that that happens.
But sometimes you don't even want her to go to the place she doesn't exactly. You know,
because she might go by herself. She doesn't understand half of what they're saying, or she thinks they're just trying to take money out of our pockets. Exactly. Because there are sometimes that she'll eventually end up in the hospital, and then they're saying something. She's like,
yes. All she needs is just somebody to be able to explain better to her what the doctor has prescribed or recommended to her.
And for her to be able to have those questions answered. Because sometimes it's really just, you know, just someone to really listen. And the average doctor is looking at, I have other patients waiting. So all that bedside manner for old people.
It should be at the community level. And, you know, that is why we thought about it on my cura that, yes, we have care support services tailored to people's individual needs. At the same time, we're also considering the fact that you probably wouldn't need somebody to live with you 24/7. Which is what we are saying. Let them come to visit. They do a critical assessment of your health condition and then make recommendations if at all it's necessary. You know, I've seen many young, vibrant, older adults. In fact, sometimes I try not to call them elderly because I think it sounds so ancient. So I call them, older adults. Like, you know, you're an adult, but in an older way. Right? And because feel like I'm okay by myself. See, I've made my food for the next 2 weeks. I don't even need to buy to make my more stressful. I can order it from one of the fast food restaurants or get my daughter to, you know, cook it and bring it to me. Like, I just have my life. And then I'll be like, but ma, you still need somebody to come out. Can the person come? She'll go, twice in a month, once in every 2 weeks. I'm like, looking at you, mama, you would need once a week. Okay, let's try. I'll give it a thought, you know. And these are people that are now beginning to consider this thing. So, yes, I believe that with what you've just said now, I'm advocating, I'm hoping that many people out there with amazing families, like their older moms and dads, grandpas, you know, older adults, right? they'll need somebody coming around to just pay a visit, to keep them company. Sometimes by doing this, we pick up little things that if it had gone unnoticed, could have become really worse. And then you now start thinking, maybe they need to have a surgery. And before you know it, there's then decline in health. And you now start wondering, and she was perfect a couple of months ago, and now she passed. So thank you very much, Tara, for this. That is so soulful, very touching. And trust me, many homes have similar experiences, but they probably don't know what to do about it. And you've provided this safe space you've provided this, this conversation, this narration that is very, very encouraging. So for somebody who has been thinking about it as a taboo to get care, they now know that, okay, I can ask for help. Yourself. Yes. And we even do it in another way. There's what we call telecare.
Okay. Yes.
So with telecare, you can just give us a call, and then we assess what the condition is. Sometimes we get to speak with these elderly people. I hear things like, I was once a soldier. I used to, and they can keep you on the phone for long if you are not careful.
Yes.
Right.
They will always keep you on the phone.
Because to show that they need it.
Yes.
Yes. So they need that conversation. Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you very much. So tell me, what will be your final words to us at my Cura today?
I don't know if it's to you at my cure. Beyond thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for providing a platform for these conversations to be had. But more importantly, to those that are listening, I want to say care is for you. It's for you, it's for the people that you love, for the people that you care about. Don't scrimp on costs. Don't push away the idea. Don't convince yourself out of it. It's critically important that you are whole, that you're well. There's nothing I wouldn't give, to be whole and well, to be sound in mind and in body. And I think that should be our disposition at all times. Whatever can help you to be truly whole and well, to have that peace of mind, if it's regarding your parents, even sometimes regarding siblings, even sometimes regarding your children, whatever you need in terms of care that would give you that sense of wholeness where you are centered, please go for it. Go to My Cure, see the various packages and opportunities that they have available to support you through whatever your personal experience or your personal circumstances are. And thank yourself for taking that bet on yourself, for making that investment in yourself, in your family, in the people that you care about. This life, they say none of us are getting out of it alive, but why not do the very best you can while you are here and enjoy it? Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And again, we would advise, yes, an advice. So follow us on all of our social media pages. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until I see you next time. Again, my name is Abiola Hakimat Ailara. Bye for now.